Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live as Vice President JD Vance makes remarks on the One Big Beautiful Bill and this act signed into law on the 4th of July by President Trump, really clearing the way to great tax reform, making permanent the Trump tax cuts. Also, no tax on overtime, no tax on tips. Something very good for skilled workers here in the United States. And that's why I always mention it. I began my career in restaurants. Go out there and tip as long as someone earns it. But they have to share that with the back of the house, the front of the house. So at least that 20%, if not more. If you can get to that, please do. Because if people work hard to make sure you have a lovely lunchtime, dinner, or evening out with the ones you love. But President Trump bringing that federal relief at a national level, as we've seen great success over the course of nearly 6 months in office. So the 50th vice president to address those issues in the bill that will now law make America great again, especially securing the border. This is where borders are. Tom Homan really wanted to have that extra security and funding for law enforcement, for the ICE, for Border Patrol, as well as national partners, including the Department of Homeland Security, led by Secretary Kristi Noem. So we look forward to those comments, and we'll bring you footage of the vice president getting aboard and deplaning as well Air Force Two, as well as all of those comments in roughly 30 minutes from now. Also, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announcing today, along with the Secretary of the Air Force, that $10 billion worth of savings, all thanks to Doge. We have a video of that to play for you via his account on Twitter, known as X now, for your viewing pleasure.
All right, we're here in my office, and I'm pleased to announce that the Secretary of the Air Force, Troy Mink, working with Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, has secured more than $10 billion in savings. They're cutting waste and working with vendors to reduce contract spending. So I want to commend you, Mr. Secretary, and the entire Air Force team for being relentless in rooting out excess. The Air Force can now claim the top 2 spots on the Doge savings podium. I don't know where this podium is. I'm told it's somewhere, maybe in the basement of the Pentagon, but we're going to dust it off, and the Air Force claims the top 2 spots, symbolizing their commitment to leadership and to you, the taxpayer. So thank you to the Secretary for being an example of stewardship, and we appreciate your dedication to President Trump's mission of peace through strength. Outstanding work, and appreciate all you're doing.
Well, thank you, Secretary Hegseth. As you said, efficient use of taxpayer dollars is critical to national security and maintaining our lethality. Over the past 6 months, we've looked at 500 contracts, 50 business systems, realizing more than $10 billion of savings. And as I said, with the modernization going on, which is the largest in the history of the Air Force, every last dollar is going to be necessary to bring that lethality and peace through strength. Thank you for the team. Thank you, sir, for supporting the Department of the Air Force, and look forward to working for you.
Great work. Let me see that card. 50 business systems.
50.
That gives you a sense of what we're up against here. I mean, 500 contracts is probably just the beginning.
Yeah, part of it was actually shrinking down the number of business systems to try to streamline things a little bit.
I mean, and you've got huge platforms America's going to rely upon. I mean, the F-47, you name it, the Air Force is involved in it. This is huge. This is part of what we were sent here to do. Find those dollars to put them toward the president's mission to keep the country safe. So I appreciate you leading the way. A lot of hard work here, and thank you to Doge also for making it happen. We'll find you that podium. Appreciate you.
And thank you to Secretary Hegseth and the Secretary of the Air Force for announcing those cuts. So Elon Musk doing the due diligence over those 130 days where President Trump had him as a special government employee, really having an effect on Washington and the cuts that are needed with nearly $37 trillion in debt. So how do we break that down? I actually saw a sign in Des Moines, Iowa, when we were there for the 4th of July celebrations with President Trump, that on average, each household owes over $100,000 of debt as their share of the national debt. So it really puts things into perspective But thanks be to God for the one big, beautiful bill and this act signed into law by President Trump the following day on the 4th of July with the B-2 bombers coming over the White House, a grand celebration, and those beautiful fireworks that the President and First Lady enjoyed from the Truman balcony that evening, just displaying the fact that $10,900 will be added to that hard-earned take-home pay for the average family of four, thanks to this legislation, which could have been broken up into 3 or 4 bills, even 7, if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. But as President Trump said, everyone should like something in this. Let's put it all together. And they got that done via the House and the Senate. As President Trump was on tour yesterday announcing $92+ billion in AI and energy powerhouse investments, visiting the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania yesterday, where Vice President JD Vance is today. And we're awaiting his comments moments from now. This is an unprecedented cutting-edge AI and energy sector boom, ignited widespread acclaim, in fact, for the administration's vision, whether it be private unions and public labor unions, to the working class, middle class populist of this great nation, to the big-time COO and CEOs, so-called elite in many circles, but President Trump working hard for the American worker and bringing this availability to the Commonwealth to prosper. With fracking, with clean coal, with nuclear energy, all options are on the table, except for that wind stuff, as he talked about, the bird killers that China produces, but they don't even have windmills themselves. You have to ask the question, why is that? And now we are outpacing China and the Communist Party, building more factories here again in America, as it should be. Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history, Kalshi.com/RSBN and AngelPaste.com, where we can go back and forth. Both are great. Will Elon Musk create a new political party this year? How about the American Party? I'm not too crazy about it. Scott Presler's not crazy about it because you should settle issues in primaries, but that's another question. You can ask that question. Vote yes or no on that. How about who will President Trump pardon this year? Steve Bannon is a possibility, a great American patriot in his own right. So scan that QR code now. Kalshi.com. Trade on anything in the great US of A and abroad. Kalshi.com/RSBN and AngelPaste.com. The great miracle cream, vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals. The immunity option as well. It's an orange option with vitamin C. Again, no GMOs, no chemicals for you. You know what you're putting on your skin. Don't have to worry about those bottles of other fragrances and other things you might get at a pharmacy that make zero to no sense. And they're not good for you at the end of the day. So there's also a mosquito repellent and a natural facial spray for the guys and the gals. Experience the miracle today. The miracle out of Spring, Texas, Christian-owned. They hire veterans. AngelPaste.com. Right there along the Gulf of America in Spring, Texas, a lovely place in this country, a beautiful suburb in the Houston Metroplex. Soon we see the 50th Vice President of the United States, who just had a tie-breaking vote yesterday for that $9 billion rescission package out of the Senate. So President Trump with the legislative agenda to now tackle this terrible debt that we have caused by his living predecessors and the Uniparty over the course of the last 25, 30 years. Fun fact, one president settled the debt, and his name was Andrew Jackson. Way back when, $58 billion, that was the debt in the early 1920s. And by the end of his presidency, the 7th president of the United States, in fact, did pay off that debt. He wasn't a fan of it in his own personal life, nor in federal government. So that's the last person to have done that completely. We can go back to modern times with actually President Bill Clinton and Speaker Newt Gingrich. They had a surplus in the GDP, but still the national debt continued to grow. And then the policies that followed, especially under George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and the auto pen, by far the worst in the shortest period of time to just skyrocket the national debt, open borders, and attempt to destroy this country. Why? Did they simply hate the country, or were they trying to make money for the Bidens? A lot of that's becoming exposed over the course of the last few weeks, months, and years as we learn more and more about Otto Penn and who truly was in charge during the tenure of Joseph R. Biden Jr. Someone who claimed to be the third senator from Pennsylvania, the Scranton Joe, as he put it, to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And his father, God rest his soul, apparently would say, pick yourself up, Joe. Well, who knows if that was a true story. We know that the Otto Penn was not telling the truth ever since he claimed to be a graduate at the top of his class when he first ran for president way back in 1988. And that was not true. He was actually one of the last, which is okay. That happens. Sometimes you go on to an illustrious government career if you're last in your class or near last in your class, as the Otto Penn was. But even back then, he had cognitive decline and did not do much for Delaware nor the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But President Trump and Vice President Vance doing as such with a commitment of over $92 billion into Commonwealth energy, the AI revolution, to ensure that America remains number one on a global scale and a catalyst for unparalleled growth and opportunity throughout this great land. And if you can imagine for a moment, if the former vice president had been successful last year, it would be over for the Keystone State. The Commonwealth really would have suffered an enormous loss of jobs and opportunities, especially in the energy sector. Now, what are they saying? Blackstone president and COO John Gray, I want to thank President Trump for recognizing the importance of American leadership in AI innovation and for prioritizing the physical investment required in digital and energy infrastructure to make this AI revolution possible. We also believe this new technology can lead to a manufacturing renaissance in the United States. And Google President and CIO Ruth Porat, thank you so much for your leadership, for your clear and urgent direction that our nation invests in AI in the infrastructure and technology sectors, especially within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. These energy needs will unlock the extraordinary capabilities and really enable America to lead once again. First Energy CEO Brian Turney. Thank you, President Trump, for your leadership and particularly on energy security and what it means to our beautiful economy. We are planning $15 billion of investment between now and the end of your term on the distribution grid and the transmission grid to enable things like artificial intelligence development, shale gas development, and any other form of economic and technological development that there is. Westinghouse CEO Dan Sumner. President Trump, you've led on nuclear energy in this country and you've reinvigorated our industry with the vision that you've set forth in your executive orders. Our industry is reinvigorated. We're ready to mobilize, and what we're happy to share today is we've taken the call to action under your executive order, and this is not only critical to achieve your goals with respect to energy dominance, but the massive AI race and the driver of economic benefits across the country. And CoreWeave CEO Mike Intrater stated that we're extremely excited about the role that this data center is going to play in our plans to be able to support not just the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but the broader mid-Atlantic region for us. And your support has been incredible across the energy space that's required to deliver clean, reliable power, as well as your support for artificial intelligence at large. And this has been on the front pages across Pennsylvania in the last 24 hours. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that Trump ushering in a $92 billion investment in Pennsylvania's golden age. Also the Tribune Review, historic investment. That's their title story, with a picture of President Trump and Senator McCormick shaking hands at the round table yesterday, calling it a boon for all Pennsylvania. It's a fantastic time to celebrate this great Commonwealth. The Philadelphia Inquirer stating that McCormick hails billions along with President Trump in AI and energy products for Pennsylvania. Also, the Times Tribune. McCormick touts the investments and that tens of billions of dollars into Pennsylvania sectors secured as a result of all this. Even the Alatoona Mirror talking about this story on the front page. And this all ties back into the one big beautiful bill which made way for this, along with President Trump's executive orders to spur energy and artificial intelligence investments in the United States, because it is a national security issue. It is where we need to be on the forefront in order to trade with other great nations, but also to be a competitor in global markets and in turn offer high-skilled labor and good high-wage paying jobs for the middle class in Pennsylvania. And without Pennsylvania, we really would not be an energy leader throughout the world. Texas gets a lot of credit, as it should, but Pennsylvania really is where it's at with fracking and clean coal and nuclear, among other energy resources. As President Trump said, we will be celebrating all of that, not so much the windmills that kill birds, as the Chinese Communist Party produces those. They can't even recycle those things. Just an amazing time to be fighting on the forefront with countless new allies to the cause in making America great again. Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, with a new COVID variant out there and the storms that can happen on a moment's notice. We saw the horrible things that happened in Texas along the Guadalupe River and Camp Mystic, and we keep our thoughts and prayers with all of the victims, all the first responders, in what turned out to be a very harrowing moment. Over 850 people saved, but hundreds passing, especially the youngest among us, those young patriots who are with God now and resting eternally. This all makes you think about having your medicine cabinet stocked and ready against any kind of emergency when it comes to NAD+, methylene blue, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, and much, much more, including mebendazole, 200 essential medications, emergency medical kits, and also antibiotics ready for you. And you can take these on the road as well. They're nice and mobile. Scan that QR code now for the new deal. Code RSBN10. That's RSBN10 for 10% off. In April of 2025, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the great governor of Arkansas, helped their state to become the first to enact a law prohibiting PBMs. Those are pharmacy benefit managers from operating their own pharmacies. In other words, double dipping, running insurances, running pharmacies. It harms the American consumer. Now below is a key summary of all of those things, including House Bill 1150 or Act 624 that was signed into law by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders on April 16th of this year with an effective date of January 1st of 2026. So visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Get through the red tape. No bureaucracy, no insurance, no worries. Just doctors and healthcare providers, pharmacists committed to you and your health. Thank you to them, and thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN with the new summer sale. It's a free shipping sale. My Cross, including the My necklace that Mike Lindell wears on a daily basis. Save half off on that, 50%. Also the My Pillow bed sheets, $24.98. A great deal there, as well as the best multi-use My Pillow 2.0, $9.98. What a deal there. It's better than any lunch deal that's out there. So mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today. Don't delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and RSBN. Shop now. mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to the purveyor of patriotism, defender of election integrity, free speech, and all things America, Mr. Mike Lindell out of the great state of Minnesota. And you're looking live as we are in the beautiful state of Alabama. We're looking towards that glorious green pastures of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Vice President Vance to give remarks on the one big beautiful bill, the act that became law on the 4th of July, America's 249th birthday. President Trump in a star-studded event of congressmen in the MAGA movement. Sadly, not one Democrat voted for the legislation, but it cuts taxes. It makes permanent the Trump tax cuts to spur an economic growth unlike any other that we've seen in the nation's history. And I'm going to predict right here, right now, This is going to be an economy unlike anything we have ever seen in the United States through the tenure of this second term of President Donald Trump, because of the tariffs that have been used on other countries, the deals with Vietnam to Indonesia to the UK, all of the success that we saw in June from stopping the Iranian nuclear threat, ending the 12-day war, healing Israel, healing the Middle East in the process, now stopping Russia's aggression upon Ukraine, and ultimately having a peace accord. As President Trump said, secondary tariffs will be on Russia if they don't stop this within the next 50 days. So the clock is ticking. He speaks to President Vladimir Putin on a daily basis. And again, it just shows you that the Russia hoax, the Crossfire Hurricane narrative, Steele dossier, all of that, fake news. An attempt to bring down a duly elected president because Barack Hussein Obama and crooked Hillary Clinton, the auto pen, as well as communist John Brennan, and serve himself up a side piece of hustle, James Comey, all working against this great nation because they hate democracy. They hate the American people. They hate the rule of law. And perhaps justice will come sooner rather than later. But we'll be right here with you for all of that on RSBN's live desk as President Trump celebrates 1 year ago that terrible event in Butler, Pennsylvania, an attempted assassination that took the life of Corey Campitor, the hero firefighter who shielded his family from the bullets. And a MAGA crowd such as that right there that you're seeing stood there. They did not run. They did not cause chaos. But rather they were there for one another and listening to law enforcement. That led into what was the Republican National Convention of 20 promises made and kept from the Trump campaign that became Republican policy, that have changed the size and scope of not only the party, but the size and scope and the reach of a federal government that is now shrinking before our eyes thanks to constitutional governance of 3 branches of the government. Article 1, 2, and 3 working seemingly together in a great way because President Trump nominated, especially in his first term, constitutional justices and judges making solid, sound rulings, giving power back to the states, just like the one that happened the other day at SCOTUS with the Department of Education now needing to relinquish its powers and opening up the ways for Secretary Linda McMahon to get that done so that school choice can happen, so that the bureaucrats in Washington won't go into your zip code and say you have to do it this way as this other place across the country simply because we said so, regardless of failing test scores and failing districts. It will be more about those who are chosen to lead, your neighbors, on school boards and different issues there, so that local governance can thrive once again. That's part of being in a constitutional republic. It's federalism. It's the 10th Amendment to the Bill of Rights. States' rights. It's not a dog whistle that the left calls. And the globalists like to make it out to be that it's so bad that we have these laboratories of democracy. No, it's the brilliance of American democracy. It's the brilliance of a constitutional republic, law and order, and one nation under God. And you're seeing that on a daily basis from this administration. Let's toss it there live. We have Vice President JD Vance to give remarks and Secretary Kelly Loeffler.
Wow, Pennsylvania is back. I am so thrilled myself to be back in the Keystone State, especially now that we've passed the one big, beautiful bill into law. Or as I like to call it, rocket fuel. In a few minutes, I'll have the great honor of introducing a great leader who had to fight the radical left, from tax and spend Democrats to MSNBC, to get this done, Vice President JD Vance. Now, I have heard that Joe Biden claims this part of the Commonwealth as his own, but from what I can see, this sure looks like Trump country. I'd like to recognize the incredible team here at Don's Machine Shop for hosting us. Don's story is an incredible inspiration, and it's exactly what this great country is about. This is what's possible with grit, with integrity, and a whole lot of hard work. My friends, this is the American dream, and it's exactly what President Trump designed the One Big Beautiful Bill to do, to support the American dream. Now, thankfully, you also have champions in Congress from right here in Pennsylvania who understand that. That includes Congressman Rob Bresnahan. And thank you, Rob, for being here. Thank you, Rob. Now, Congressman, I hear you got your start in business sweeping the floors of your grandfather's electrical contracting company. I did the same, pushing a broom in my dad's machine shop on our Illinois farm. And now look at us. Here we are sweeping up the mess that the Democrats made the last 4 years. So thank you. Now, small businesses are the backbone of America, but for the last 4 years, they were crushed by rampant inflation, by Bidenomics, but today it's these businesses, these workers, these communities like right here in America who are being put first. In just 6 months, President Trump slashed runaway inflation. He brought back clean, beautiful coal and drill, baby, drill. He stood up to decades of failed trade policies that sent our jobs to China. He delivered the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is the largest tax cut for hardworking Americans in our nation's history. It's a Main Street bill. It's for workers. It's for families. It's for seniors. It unleashes a new era of growth and prosperity for every single American. And I've traveled across this country nonstop for the last 6 months. I've seen it firsthand. This bill is rocket fuel for small businesses. They need it. They deserve it. I've talked with waitresses who are excited about taking on more shifts now with no tax on tips. Yeah, let's hear it. Former waitress right here for 6 years. I know what that means. Mechanics and welders who are no longer penalized by taxes for working overtime. 63% of overtime workers are here. I hear from defense manufacturers equipping our warfighters that they are spring-loaded to buy more CNC machines. I've heard that they're going to expand their shops thanks to 100% expensing, but most of all, I hear that Main Street is grateful because President Trump is the greatest small business pro-worker champion in American history. Now, this bill is generational. It will create 1 million jobs across Main Street, bring $750 billion in economic opportunity. It secures our border. It stops taxpayer benefits from going to illegal aliens, and a major new tax break for seniors, parents, and students. In just 6 months, this is one more win that President Trump and Vice President Vance have delivered for the American people, even with every single Democrat voting against them. Well, the Democrats want to relive the last 4 years, but we want to make America great again. And thank you. And it's now a great honor to introduce a man who comes from America's heartland, and clearly it is written on his heart. Vice President JD Vance knows the challenges that hardworking Americans face, and he fights for them every single day. He doesn't just want to make sure you're not left behind. He wants to put you first. He is a champion for our families, for our nation, for our great president. And now please join in welcoming the 50th Vice President of the United States, JD Vance.
How we doing? It is great to be in northeastern Pennsylvania. I see a beautiful baby back there. Thank you for bringing him. How you doing, buddy? He's like, get me out of here. Get me out of here. He'll worry about politics later. He's not old enough to vote, so let me just say a few things about where we are before I get into what I want to talk about, which is the one big beautiful bill and the way that it's going to bring Pennsylvania roaring back and American manufacturing roaring back to life. And that's this. This is a beautiful, great facility and a great business. And what it means to have a great American machining company right here in northeastern Pennsylvania is a few things. First of all, it means that this facility employs people who are participating in the proud tradition of manufacturing, of making great, big, and beautiful things with American workers and with American hands. And I know a lot of you participate in that work every day. But I've got a bit of a personal connection to this facility because my father, who passed away a couple of years ago, my father, when I was born, worked in a machine shop in Hamilton, Ohio, in southwestern Ohio, a business called Hamilton Tool. And eventually, like a lot of businesses like that, Hamilton Tool was not doing too well because what the Chinese and other Asian, primarily Mexican manufacturing economies were doing is they were stealing American jobs. They were making it easier to undercut the wages of American workers, and the United States lost a lot of great, big, beautiful factories during that period, thanks in large part because of bad decisions made by American leadership. And to have a business like this in northeastern Pennsylvania, I'm sure it hasn't been easy. You've got 36 employees here, and I know every single one of them work hard every day. But this is a great company, a great American success story. And while you guys thrived with bad policy coming from Washington, D.C., I think that you're going to take off into a rocket ship with good policy coming from Washington, D.C. under Donald J. Trump's leadership. And my dad's name was Don. This is Don's Machine Shop, so I think it's appropriate to be here and to Don, Dave, and Dan. That's tough to remember, trust me. Thank you all for building a great business here in northeastern Pennsylvania, and thank you all for having me and all these great people here to celebrate the accomplishments of the last 6 months. Now, I know we're here to talk about the big, beautiful bill, and we're here to talk about American manufacturing, but I thought it'd be okay, especially since Kelly Loeffler, our great SBA administrator, she's doing a hell of a job. Kelly, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing everything that you do. And, you know, Kelly did such a good job talking about what the big, beautiful bill would do for all of you. I don't think I have to talk about anything except for what I want to talk about. So we'll get to that in a second, but I don't know if you all saw this headline, because I know every single American here cares about border security. Is that right? And I think it's one of the great things that we've done in this administration is we kept our promise that we were going to close down the American southern border, shut off the flow of fentanyl, and start prioritizing American workers over Mexican drug cartels for a change. That is a great accomplishment. Now, it turns out the New York Times is not the biggest fan of what we've been doing at the border under the Trump administration. So they had this headline. I'm not kidding you. This is not a joke headline. I'm going to read you verbatim what the New York Times said just a couple of days ago. And I quote, "I was one of Biden's border advisors. Here's how to fix our immigration system." What would he know about fixing our immigration system? It was the Biden administration that broke our immigration system. So we've been having a little bit of fun around the office. So the Department of Homeland Security, their take on this was, "I was Humpty Dumpty. Here's how to sit on a wall." But be careful what you wish for. Now we're in northeastern Pennsylvania. I assume that this is Eagles territory. Is that right? Okay. Some dissension here. We've got a lot of Eagles fans, but not 100% Eagles fans here. But congratulations, by the way, on last year. But this is what a buddy of mine sent me. He said, "I'm a Cincinnati Bengals player. Here's how you win Super Bowls." And that cut a little deep. For the football fans out there will know that was not a cool thing for that guy to say. But this is what we're dealing with, my friends. We're dealing with a new administration, a new day, and a president who is fixing what was broken during the last administration. I think we're all Proud of that and proud to be here to celebrate it. And here's what I am most proud of. What I am most proud of over the last 6 months, the border is important, and it's great, and it's incredible that we were able to go from the worst open border to a closed border in just a couple of weeks under President Trump's leadership. But you know what I'm really excited about? I'm really excited about the fact that for the first time in a very long time, workers' wages are rising faster than inflation. You're able to buy more, you're able to do more, and we're just getting started. For decades in this country, the story was that blue-collar workers in particular, they might get a little pay raise or they might not get any pay raise at all, but it was never enough to keep pace with inflation. No matter how hard you worked, no matter how hard you came to work every single day, no matter how many overtime hours, for example, you put in, you were falling behind. Way too many good Pennsylvania families were falling behind. And under just 6 months of the president's leadership, we've got inflation is coming under control, and blue-collar wages are rising faster than they have risen in 60 years. That is a testament to great presidential leadership and the great American people. And we're just getting started, my friends. The passage of the big, beautiful bill. Now, of course, the mainstream media, the corporate press, doesn't like what we accomplished. It doesn't like what we did. But let me just talk a little bit about what this bill, about what this legislation means for you and your family. And there are a few different things, a few different ways in which I think this will be transformational for the American people. You heard Kelly talk about this a little bit. How many, Don, of your 36 employees are putting in a lot of overtime every single week? I bet a lot of them are. You told me you got projects coming in so fast they're struggling to get people in to do all the jobs that are necessary. Well, now, thanks to President Trump's leadership, if you work overtime, the federal government is not going to take a dime of that overtime. You earn that money, you ought to keep it in your pocket. And while we're on that topic, why is it? You know, the big, beautiful bill was about taxes, it was about spending, it was about investing in America's future. But one of the most important things the president's doing and working on, it doesn't get nearly the headlines, is asking, why is it that we force every single young person to get a big chunk of debt at a 4-year college or university? Why don't we give our young people more options? Because if we did, a lot of them would come and work at Don's machine shop. And that would be good for them, and it'd be good for American workers. You know, we think it's fine. If you want to go to college, go to college. There's a lot of opportunity out there. But if you want to work with your hands, if you want to build something, if you want to build a house, build a bridge, make one of these incredible orders that comes into this small business right here in northeastern Pennsylvania, your government should not be forcing you to do what elites in Washington want you to do. You ought to be able to chart your own course and your own career path, and the Trump administration is going to fight for that. But, you know, here are just some of the other things that we're doing with this one big, beautiful bill. You know that we are creating the biggest tax breaks maybe in American history for investing in building in the United States of America. So if you're a small business, if you're a medium-sized business, if you want to invest in American workers, we are going to make it so you pay less taxes. Invest in Americans and your government ought to reward you. Isn't that common sense? But the crazy thing is, for years, our government has done the exact opposite. We have rewarded people who shipped American jobs overseas and penalized the great small businesses who invested right here in America, right here at home. And the President Trump's leadership, we're flipping that on its head. If you're building here, if you're making here, if you're working in the United States of America, we just gave you a big, fat tax break. But if you're going to ship American jobs overseas, thanks to Donald Trump, you're going to pay a big, fat tariff. It's time to invest in our own country and our own people once again, and we're doing it. And here's the crazy thing. While we worked so hard, without a single Democrat in Congress supported this legislation, we worked so hard to get this legislation passed, to cut your taxes, to prevent big tax increases, to make it easier to save and invest right here in this great country that all of us love. Would you believe that the Democrats, they are attacking us every single day? And you know what their big line of attack is? Their big line of attack is that Donald Trump dares to put tariffs on foreign countries who try to bring their crap into the United States of America. And that's interesting to me, because Democrats seem to like everything that increases taxes. If you've got a health care problem, they'll say, well, just raise taxes, right? Health care costs in this country, we're working on it. They're way too expensive. Democrats will say, well, just raise taxes. We got not enough people working. Democrats will say, just raise taxes. That's their solution to every single problem. But you know, the one group of people in the entire world that they don't seem interested in penalizing, it's foreign countries that take advantage of this country, and that's got to stop. Part of the big, beautiful agenda is saying that if you're going to build something in the United States of America, we're going to reward you and we're going to fight for you. But if you want to build something overseas, you're going to pay a big fat tariff before you bring it back into the United States of America, and that's exactly how it should be. For the first time, really in my lifetime, I'm 40 years old, I turned 40. Politicians in Washington ought to manage their budget in the exact same way. And there are just a couple other things I want to talk about, because of course, northeastern Pennsylvania presidential leadership that would rather us buy energy, oil, gas, of course, solar and wind, from everybody else except for our own people. And I don't think that made very much sense, did it? So what we've done with this big, beautiful bill is we've opened up new oil and gas leases in our own country. We're going to reward oil and gas countries for investing and building and developing in our country. And as Kelly said, and the president says all the time, after 4 years of broken energy policy, we are finally going to drill, baby, drill, and invest in American energy workers. And I know you all love that. And the thing about drill, baby, drill, it's not just about the energy workers as much as we love them. It's about consumers who are paying less for gas and energy than they have in 4 years. That's a big deal. We bring in energy costs down, and it happened very quickly. And here's the other important thing. You know, one of the great advantages that we have in this country, I think we've got two great advantages for our American manufacturers. First of all, we've got the best people and the best workers anywhere in the world, and we're proud of them. That's the first big advantage. The second big advantage is we can produce energy more cheaply in the United States of America than anywhere else in the world. You look at some of these other countries, you look at China, you look at Mexico. The biggest advantage we've got is that we can produce with American workers energy far more cheaply than they can. So why did we have a president for 4 years who said we're going to buy oil and gas from anybody else? We have a president now who says we're going to buy oil and gas from Americans, from American workers and American families, and we're going to build great things doing it. And I want to say just two more things about this big, beautiful bill. Number one, didn't get that much headlines, and you probably won't even be aware of it for 10, 12, 14 years down the road. But in the big, beautiful bill, there was $1,000 for every newborn Americans to create a savings account and try to build some wealth for the next generation of Americans. And I think that's a very big deal, because you're going to have a bunch of kids who, of course, aren't aware of it today. And this is a good argument, honey, for how to so that when they're ready to start off on a new life, when they're ready to come to Don's Machine Shop, when they're ready to start a small business or to go on to higher education, they've actually got real wealth built right here in the United States of America, and that's thanks to the one big beautiful bill. Now, it's interesting, my friends, that the Democrats, we couldn't get a single Democrat to vote for that bill. Couldn't get a single Democrat to vote for $1,000 for every newborn baby in the United States of America, and I realized the problem. If we had made that $1,000 accessible not to newborn American babies, but to illegal aliens, presidency of Bill Clinton, who had a lot of problems, let's be clear, but Bill Clinton was not the modern Democratic Party when it came to these wide open borders. He was not encouraging violence against our immigration enforcement officers. He was not voting against legislation that would help American citizens build wealth. Because whatever you want to say, today's Democrats are not the Democrats of the past. We just finished one election in 2024, and of course it went the right way. But what we're getting ready to do over the next year and a half, is to talk about these big wins. Because if we don't talk about them, we know too many in the fake news does for America's citizens. Because we don't want to wake up in a year and a half and give the Democrats power back and realize that they're going to take $1,000 out of our hands to give it to illegal aliens. We're going to invest in American workers and American families every single day, and that's my solemn promise to every person in this room. And I want to close here because I know, we're in the middle of be represented by some high-quality leadership. And I'm going to give a shout-out to Congressman Brejnahan. I think he's here. Congressman, thank you so much for everything that you've done. This is a fun job, my friends. Being the Vice President of the United States is the greatest honor that I've ever had in my professional life, and it's all thanks to you that I'm here. But it is a hell of a lot more fun to do it with somebody you love by your side. So, Usha, thank you for everything, and thank you for making this possible. But I know a lot of us just celebrated, hopefully all of us celebrated the July 4th holiday, the independence of our And I'd never been in North Dakota before, and I was there, of course, with Usha and with our 3 kids. And my little 3-year-old daughter, she brought me this dandelion. And she it was one of these dandelions where, her little 3-year-old lungs just couldn't blow these seeds all over this beautiful Badlands hills. And I'm looking out there, and I see the American flag, and I see these beautiful hills, and I help her out, and we see these dandelions floating over this beautiful American scenery. And I think to myself, my God, what a beautiful country we have. And how lucky it is that our forefathers gave us this land to carve out a new nation and I think a new civilization. And what I realize is, in all of our jobs, whether you're working at Don's Machining or whether you're the Vice President of the United States, We're worried about the day-to-day. We're worried about the orders that come in. We're worried about, clients that we've got to serve. We're worried about, getting the big, beautiful bill passed and counting votes. That's what I was doing a lot in the last few weeks. But I realized that it's all in the service of something. It's all in the service of giving our kids the incredible opportunities that we've had. It's in the service of watching a child's face light up when she sees America's beauty. And I saw it on her face and in her eyes for the first time, realizing what a beautiful landscape this was. It's about the cookouts. It's about seeing our kids grow up and learn something that they have a passion for. It's about believing that the next generation is going to have a better life than we had because we worked our tails off to give it to them. That's the American dream, my friends. That's what it's all about. And when I think about what this administration has accomplished over the last 6 months, but more importantly, when I think about what all of us as one big American family have accomplished over the last 249 years, all I can think about is it's time to keep building, it's time to keep working, and it's time to make sure that these beautiful faces, these beautiful kids that I see in this audience, that they're going to have a better life than we had. That is the promise of America, and we will never stop fighting to give it to the next generation. God bless you all, and thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Hello, Detroit auto worker, let me thank you for your time. You work a 40 hour.
And Vice President JD Vance in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania touting the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, now signed into law by President Trump on the 4th of July. And apologies regarding there was no good service and Wi-Fi with the pool cam, and sometimes it does happen on live TV, so pardon the interruption. But let your heart not be troubled, because there is another stream. President Trump will be signing another beautiful bill momentarily. Matthew Alvarez on the desk. Thank you to our sponsors today. And if you like what you see at this RSBN live desk, be sure to donate. rsbnetwork.com/donate or text RSBN to 801-801. We're deeply grateful for your sponsorship and for all the support you've given us over the last decade as we bring you unbridled access to your 47th President, 50th Vice President, and the 119th Congress hard at work on a daily basis. Also, you can find all America First updates at rsbnnetwork.com/newsletter. Exclusive offers only here on the right side of history. For all my colleagues at RSBN, stick with us. In a few moments, another live stream. Have a wonderful afternoon. God bless.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.